Calaroga Shark Media.
From the basement where it's literally 50 degrees. My boiler's not working. Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. I am all discombobulated. It is freezing in the house. Thank goodness I have this space heater and can kind of heat up one room. It's awful. They're supposedly coming on Sunday. Yikes. So I'm a little messed up here. Billboard did release the top 25 comedians of the 21st century. If you want to check that out on Billboard.com. I was hoping that today I would be able to record my thoughts on it and put it out as a bonus episode for the paid subscribers, and it would be in the regular feed at the end of December, but not going to get to that today. Johnny Mac is running late, and, I mentioned I had the wedding last night, so as I record this, it's before the wedding, but I have to shower, shave, and put on real clothes. It's one thing to sit here dressed like Adam Sandler recording a podcast. It's another to look like an adult, and then people are like, hey, is that George Clooney? And I'm like, no, I get that all the time. I did record the Comedy Survivor Selection Show. That'll come out as a bonus feed in the middle of the day Monday. So Monday I'll give you a regular episode, which I haven't recorded yet, and the Comedy Survivor Selection Show. That came out really well. I put a lot of work into that one. Had fun with that. All right, today's news. Kevin Hart was on Diary of a CEO, and Kevin said, if life ended today, I could cross my legs comfortably and be okay. I made sure I applied myself to the best of my ability. I tried my best to put those I loved in a better position so that they could see more and do more. My last name and my family name is much stronger today than it was yesterday. The idea of the world is that something I was able to live and understand better because I was blessed and fortunate enough to travel and meet. I was an energy and source of good to bring people closer together through all the things I've done. So it all connects, and I'm okay. I'm okay. If it stopped, it stopped. What I'm not okay with is while I have the bandwidth of good health, great mind, I can go, I can do it, I can get there. I'm not okay with wasting that time. Those are good, smart words by Kevin Hart. If you haven't watched his special, it'll probably, unless something surprises me this week, wind up as my number 2 special of the year. Very, very funny. Gary Gulman was asked, what's the worst and most illogical state abbreviation, and why is it MO for Missouri? Gary said they must have gone in alphabetical order and got to Michigan and Mississippi before Missouri. Then they got to Missouri, and the next non-S letter was O. That must be how they did it. It's not intuitive at all. They should have based it on population. Gary was asked to talk about the Chicago comedy scene. He says, I've been really impressed over the years. There were a lot of good comedians in the 80s. White guys from Chicago who reminded me of Boston comedians, but with a different accent. The thing I noticed, and Chicago's in the top 5 for this, the closer a city is to a university I couldn't have gotten into, the better my act does. It never fails. The further I go from a good college, the harder I bomb. Chicago has Northwestern, University of Chicago, and others. It's not about me being smart. It's about how I try to sound smart, and it's appreciated there. I found there were more comedians trying to sound dumb. You spend 5 minutes watching them and you think, that person's not dumb. Those jokes are too clever. You're insulting my intelligence. Billboard asked Josh Johnson if there were any challenges making the transition from writer to correspondent to anchor. Josh said it's probably hitting refresh after each show. It's not a bad thing, but you could be on cloud 9 after you do a show right after the wrap. There's an element of, okay, but do we have to come back tomorrow and start again? At the end of a week, you get to enjoy everything that you did and be like, wow, that's a great experience. Day to day, hitting refresh is sometimes a challenge. Although I'm used to it from doing so much stand-up on the road. You're in West Palm Beach one day, Jacksonville the next day, and maybe Tallahassee the next. I feel the same way about my YouTube channel where I post every Tuesday. Variety was focused on Morgan Jay, and they wrote, Morgan Jay is not your typical stand-up comedian. Variety writes, armed with an acoustic guitar and auto-tune drenched microphone, Morgan Jay sprints down the aisles of the theaters in which he performs, bantering with his fans and leading them in song. He pours tequila shots into women's mouths straight from the bottle, convinces couples on first dates to give each other a smooch, and pushes wheelchair-bound audience members across the venues, recruiting baddies to sit on their laps. All the while, he stares directly into the lens of a roaming camera that follows him around and projects his face onto a jumbotron. He's got a health and fitness regimen equipped for a pop star. That regimen, running every other day, gym every other day, yoga, 20 minutes of stretching a day, vocal exercises every day while I'm touring, no alcohol, no weed, no smoking whatsoever, no meals after 8 p.m. Now, I love that because right when I was reading vocal exercises every day, my voice cracked and I'm leaving it in. And I worked out 5 days in a row, and then I had to teach Thursday morning, and then Friday I had to record this and go to a wedding and not watch Adam Sandler or Jay Kelly. And today's Saturday, I'm not going to get to work out either because I didn't do the weekend shows yet. Ugh, this is how you wind up fat. Well, that and the 7:30 a.m. cheeseburgers I ate when I was 24 years old producing morning radio in New York City. That's a story for another day. Morgan J. says, it's an investment for people to come to the show. I'd hate not to be able to give my fans the best show I can give them. Variety did some math. Ticket plus parking plus merch plus 2 drinks plus hotel can easily total more than $500. Well, you don't need a hotel. Go home. Jay's set combines two things that comedy purists might scoff at: music and crowd work. People get so upset about the crowd work. Did you watch Matt Rife's special? It's funny. Variety really waxed his car. They wrote, just as Bo Burnham might be the quintessential comic to rise from YouTube, Morgan Jay embodies comedy's TikTok era. He posts about one crowd work clip per day to his 9.4 million followers, asking people where they're from, who they're with, and whether they will sleep together after the show, all while singing into a pitch-corrected mic. He says crowd work is only the first 20 minutes of his set. The rest of his show follows a more rigid structure with pre-written songs and interludes of traditional stand-up comedy. And no, the autotune is not always on. Interestingly, after college, Morgan Jay was an intern on NBC's Tonight Show when it was hosted by Conan O'Brien. He explained Conan would have 3 or 4 pages of jokes for the opening monologue, and the interns were asked to come down and watch him rehearse so he could get a live reaction. He'd read the jokes and immediately go, no, yes, no. He wasn't precious with the material. After The Tonight Show, Morgan Jay was a bike tour guide, plugging his own show to tourists cycling around Central Park. Then he got a job hawking iPhones. He said 90% of working at the Apple store is resetting passwords. That's funny. He started doing the auto-tune crowd work during the pandemic, but says he did do a grind. When I started going viral on TikTok, I had 10 years of experience and a backlog of material. There are people who blow up on TikTok who don't have 20 minutes of material. People see me as this TikTok comedian. There are a lot of other sides of myself I'd like to show. The Sklar Brothers talked about being twins and said being twins, even from an early age, was an attention getter. Back when we were born in the 70s, it was rare to see twins. You rarely saw a double-wide stroller. I think as we got older, there was a lot of attention on us. We loved getting laughs and being connected to people. When we started out, it was hard to live in St. Louis and give yourself a lot of opportunities in the comedy world. We went to the University of Michigan for college and really started to develop our comedy chops. Then we had a choice. Either go to New York or L.A. if you really wanted to try and make a run at this business. So we chose New York because we love New York and the energy there. I worked with those guys a little bit. They are cool guys. Almost gave them a show on Sirius. As most of the stories I tell you, I couldn't get anyone to give me any budget for it. It was not a lot of money, but, you got to give people some money. So many missed opportunities. We tried to give Amy Schumer a show before she super popped, but no money. Chang Wang caught up with Cincinnati.com. Cincy.com wrote, that's understandable in a club where there's 50 or 100 people, but if 1,000 people are in the line, you'd be in the lobby twice as long as you were on stage. Shang said, I try to keep it moving. It's a quick photo, quick hello. Charging feels weird to me to just say hello to people. It feels so nice that people express how excited and happy they are for the show. The topic they are charging for meet and greets. A lot of comics do that. Shang said, I love seeing generations of a family have a reason to spend time together. Someone in Milwaukee thanked me because they get to spend an hour and a half with their mom, and they rarely get to laugh and spend time together like that. I might not hang after shows forever, but right now it's touching and sweet to me. Fun interview here. Cincinnati.com doing their research said, I ran across a wedding page that said you're marrying Rachel Rollins next summer in La Jolla. I don't know how many Chang Wangs are out there, but it seems like a singular name. Comedian Chang Wang said, I saw that recently. I don't know what that is, but it feels like a scam. There's no photos of who they are. Since he said, it says, please send presents to Rachel. Chang Wang said, exactly. That's such a good scam. At the University of Southern California, you can minor in comedy. You can take classes in stand-up, improv, magic, and medical clowning. About 15 to 20 undergrads complete the minor each academic year. The LA Times took a look at this program. I found this interesting. Launched in the fall of 2015 by the School of Dramatic Arts. Some of the students are seeking careers as actors. Others are interested in careers in medicine, science, and engineering. For them, comedy offers a chance to develop skills that could be useful in their hoped-for professions and their daily lives. There's an intro to stand-up class. There's also the medical clowning one. In that, students learn how to interact with hospital patients. Along the way, they're taught how to juggle and perform magic tricks. The professor there said some of the students have gone on to graduate from medical school. That's fun. One of the students, Malaya, who wants to be a doctor, said, at first, my dad was like, why am I paying tuition for this? I have a college-age daughter. I encourage her to take fun electives. She actually took a sailing class, which was really great. Paris Sachet is on Vulture's list of comedians you should know and will know, and they asked 2 questions. Best comedy advice, worst comedy advice. I always enjoy these answers. Worst. Women aren't normally funny, so be grateful every time you get booked on a show and make sure you stand out because they didn't have to book a woman. Best comedy advice was if you're nervous, no matter how big the room is, if you look straight to the back, it'll look like you're looking at the entire room. It'll give off that you're making eye contact with the entire crowd. That is a great tip. Also, be funny on stage, but be likable off stage. Roy Wood Jr. advised her, don't leave any meat on the bone when it comes to a topic. He said rather than talking about 10 different topics, you can literally talk about one topic until you get everything out of that one topic that you can. Also on that list, Ismail Lufti. Best comedy advice, worst comedy advice. Best, when I was starting out in Florida, an older comic saw me performing one night and said, "You give a hoot. Keep giving a hoot." Worst, I once wrote for CBS's After Midnight other than writing games and stuff. One of the duties of the writers was to serve as a Sherpa for the different comedian guests who'd come on. One day I was working with a pretty huge comic. He came in stoned out of his mind and refused to wear shoes. Eventually, we sort of bonded in a way. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "If I can give you any advice, Islam, not my name, it's this: be undeniable." Then he stared at me, completely serious, as if he just blew my mind. Then he went on TV and took off his shirt. It was the stupidest moment of my life. I'm talking to a barely sentient, half-naked blob who's parroting something Jim Gaffigan famously said earlier, as if he came up with it himself. Who do you think that is? So who would show up at After Midnight? So it can't be a huge comedian if they're doing After Midnight, and the person took off their shirt. So we're all thinking Bert Kreischer, but it's not going to be Bert Kreischer here. So who showed up stoned and did a poor man's Jim Gaffigan? That is a good question. Let me know what you think about that in the Facebook group, Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. Ismail, do you have any advice to others? None of us deserve success selling out tours, writing jobs, pilots, Netflix specials. I have health insurance through the Writers Guild. Am I so good at writing that I deserve to go to the doctor while other comics don't? Of course not. It's a brutal, unfair, unsustainable scam. If you're experiencing success, you better be humble. If you're struggling, take solace in the fact that the rich shall not enter the kingdom of God. That is your comedy news on a Saturday. Have a great day.